Da da da! What's my good chair? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never met me before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And today, I wish I was outside. I kept my word. I worked on my website. Not my favorite thing in the whole world to do. Not even close. I am not naturally technically inclined. I have to go in there and I really have to apply myself. I have to push buttons. I have to allow my blood pressure to go up, to be agitated. But also at the same time, I am determined. When I know I have to do something, I don't back down. If I've got to do it, I've got to do it. And whether I like it or not, I'm going to apply myself. And, it is just accepted that it's not going to be my favorite thing in the world when it comes to technology, but I worked on it and I was kind of proud of myself. I didn't finish it, of course, because I've got to do everything in baby steps. But I was actually working on it for, at least a couple of hours this afternoon. I was working on my website. Went in there and I went into a little bit of a panic mode because all the work I had done on it so far, I couldn't find it. It had just like disappeared. But of course, not being technically inclined, I wasn't looking in the right place. And I was happy when I found it, but then went right back into that frustration because it is a process for me. But we all have things like that in our lives, don't we? Things that we don't like doing. In the good old days, for me, I did not like gardening, right? I tried my hand at it thinking that it was going to be so fun. My husband hired a guy and we had a huge backyard. Like we're talking huge, like an acre. And this guy came in and he tilled and turned the sod over in the entire backyard. I planted a cornfield, like I planted a little cornfield, beet, squash, cucumbers, carrot, everything. And I toiled in that garden and I really disliked it. But I says, you know what? You get this hard work over done with, get it planted, and you're going to be so happy with the amazing amount of vegetables you're going to have in the fall. Didn't turn out to be that way. I didn't even know about weeding, that I would have to be out in the garden every day, weeding it to make sure that it wasn't suffocating all my beautiful vegetables that I had planted there. And after about a week of weeding, that was it for gardening for me. I come to realize it was not my thing. And it wasn't that I allowed myself to be beaten in that it got the best of me, even though it got the best of me. It was the realization that I didn't like gardening. It wasn't something that I had to do, but I was curious. My husband went through all that trouble and spent his hard earned money to make his wife happy. And in the end, I wasn't happy. So I just let it go. In the end, all my beets grew, all my carrots grew, despite all the weeds. Despite all the weeds. A lot of the vegetables didn't survive that experience. I barely survived that experience. But to have that revelation that gardening wasn't my thing. And so, I can recognize in this moment that building websites are not my thing. If somebody was hiring a website creator, I would not be that girl to apply for that position because it's not something I enjoy. It's not something that I'm good at, right? So these are the realizations that you can do and say, I'm going to let that go, right? But I need that website, right? I'm not going to hire somebody and spend the big bucks for somebody else to build it for me. So I've got to do it. And in that process, I'm still not enjoying it, but I'm looking at what I'm doing and I'm kind of surprised. I'm kind of proud of myself. It doesn't look that bad. And I'm managing to get it done, but I'm managing it to get it done in baby steps, just in little bites and taking breaks, right? Let my ADHD kind of take over in that and allow myself to have that little bit of space and that time to do it at the pace that I need to do it. It's not going to be done tomorrow, right? If I'm lucky, it might be done in a week, right? I should put a deadline on it because it does have to be done. And I have to push back at what pushes me in what I have to do, right? But I don't think I'll ever build another website because it's not my favorite thing to do. And I know my capacity in it, right? And I know that to have a system that's happy and content and calm, that's really important for me, right? And I understand that there are things out in this world that hello, Tammy. There are things out in the world that, right, I am not going to enjoy doing, that I'm not going to want to do, right? But I'm going to have to do it. So this isn't a good experience for me in that because I'm doing it in baby steps and I'm stopping when my capacity is, I've had enough of this and I'll go make myself a cup of coffee and I'll do something that I do like to do, like listen to a little bit of Carl Jung or one of my favorite thought leaders out there, or watch Timmy the whale being rescued, being hauled out to the middle of the ocean. I don't know. Did you check into Timmy the whale at all, Tammy, to check out what he was, how he was doing? I was watching live in between working on the website and stuff. I would take a glance over to. He wasn't doing much. He was just in his tarp, getting dragged along by a tugboat. But I am optimistic that he's going to be okay. It's a real good, feel good story for the world, especially when there's so much crappy going on, right? That it's nice to have a story that is deserving to be on the news because, right, at this point, I'm beginning to think no news is good news, right? Um, I am so glad that you found your work that you did on your channel. That was good news to hear. I've always been honest with myself. Others, if I can't do something or if I'm not good at it, I will tell you and I will accept it. I do try new things though. I try new things all the time just for that flavor to see if it would be something that I would enjoy. But I'm talking about things that I have to do, that I don't want to do. And just understanding and feeling myself out in the process and realizing, okay, we're going to get this done because I have to get it done, but I'll never do it again because it's not my thing, right? But I do understand because I do work in media that it's important for me to stay on top of technology. But technology is moving so fast at such a fast pace in this moment that whatever is relevant in this moment, even next year, it's going to be the old days, right? It'll be how we look back at the old computer. I remember the old, or not the computer, the calculator. I remember when the calculator first came out. It had a 6 foot cord attached to it. It was about this big. I was in the 10th grade in high school when it came out. And if you got caught in class with a calculator, and that was something that was kind of hard to miss in those days. Now you can buy them at the dollar store about this big for $1. And they were awfully expensive too. But if you got caught in, it was considered cheating and you would be suspended from school for a certain amount of time, right? If not for the rest of the year. Nowadays, oh my goodness, the technology out there, they have ear pods and everything. And when you go to do your exams and stuff, right, you just whisper to yourself and just write down the answers. The kids are leaving school with no educations at all, right? And that's a little bit of a, what do you call that? A downhill move for humans, I think, because we need to keep that practicing in using those, that noggin of ours, right? That we don't want to ever find ourselves in a position where we are reliant on the system and then the system crashes on us. Then what are we going to do if we don't even know how to put two sticks together and make a fire so we can roast a rabbit? Like how are we going to even survive in that? Right? Kind of gives you something to think about. But people aren't even thinking about these things because everything is being taken care of for them. Even your dinner is being delivered to your door now. You get a big box and you got a meal for every day of the week. You just pay for it and you're done. Throw it in the microwave and dinner is done, right? And we started that very early. I think it was this right after the Second World War, right? Instant was very popular. Women got their refrigerators and their freezers and the microwaves and ovens and craft dinner and pierogies and frozen food and bags that you just had to drop into water. And yeah, that made it so women could stay at home in their pretty dresses watching soap operas and just meet their husbands at the door with their slippers and their martinis at 5 o'clock and then serve them those frozen bag dinners, right? Easy cleanup. And they had those beautiful kitchens that they never even got dirty. Um, No, Cindy, but this weekend I'm going to check it out. Yeah, there he was still on the move this afternoon. He was having a hard time turning around in the tarp, and so he didn't know how to go backwards to get out of the barge. So they're going to try and figure something out, but they're not in a rush to get him out because the longer he's out in the sea, there's more salt in the water, gives him chance for his skin to heal a little bit. They've lowered the barge, so he actually has to float himself rather than having his belly touching the tarp, and so that he can have his, what do you call that, air blower to be able to breathe. So he's practicing right now, holding up his own weight. They say if it takes a couple of days, it takes a couple of days. They kind of stopped in the doing the live in because they don't want anybody to see where he's actually going to slip off the barge because they don't want him to be a tourist attraction. And so they're still doing lives, but they're not really lives. It's all back feed from the past couple of days that they're showing. But I really hope that it works out. They're going to have a beacon on them so they'll be able to keep track of them, and they'll know right away if something happens if he doesn't make it, because they say, if it doesn't work out, it won't be more than a couple of weeks. So they only needed to track him for a couple of weeks to see how he's doing. If he can make it in those couple of weeks, then he's got a really, really good chance. And I think that's pretty amazing. Like I said, we need some really good, feel good stories in the news, right? We're getting bombarded by the real messy stuff, the stuff that makes us sad and depressed and scared. And also, it's stuff that's just keeping us focused. Like I'm focused on Timmy the whale, and it's a feel good. I'm not focusing on what's going on in Iran or what's going on with Trump or what's going on in Russia or the Ukraine. Like I wish everybody well. I send everybody some good cheer, but I'm not putting my energy to that, right? I'm not letting my system be agitated like it was agitated this afternoon working on my website, right? I don't need that for my system, and that's what this media, this is what the system wants you to feel, right? To keep you so preoccupied that you really don't pay attention to your own movement, to your own life, to the well being of yourself and the well being of your loved ones. Make things so easy that you don't even need to use a brain cell, right? That's the world that we live in, right? And I'm not even quite sure how long it could last, right? All it would take would be a big meteor to come through our atmosphere and land in one of the states, and that would be it. All our internet, all that satellite, that, well, the satellite would still be going, but all the systems down here would be all messed up for a very, very long time, and especially if we went into one of those storms because of it, right? And then that would really mess it up because we wouldn't be able to get any signals, right? Wouldn't, and we are relying on those signals now, like even with our hand phones, right? That they are all being hooked up to satellite now. That's pretty crazy. But also at the same time, that's exciting because Starlink is very, very expensive. And once there's so much satellite out there sending down signals for people's phones, the price will have to come down, right? It is very expensive. I don't think a lot of people out there, just the setup is expensive. But then the monthly bill with no guarantees, because once there's clouds over you, you're not going to be able to get a good signal from the satellites, right? We are so dependent on technology, you guys. Like, and I'm talking as someone who's playing with technology frustratingly, but playing with technology every single day. But my forte is, I think, the communication and not naturally pushing the buttons and in the technology and in the creating of the websites and the analytics and stuff. Though I do enjoy paying attention to the analytics. I haven't been in my analytics today to see how my videos are doing. I always like to see which of my podcasts, the topics are relevant and people are paying attention to, because it gives me ideas on topics to talk about. We were not allowed to use calculators either. We would get in trouble too, Cindy. Our teachers would always say, your minds are your calculator, so use it. And they would tell us that, and you're 100% right in that, Tammy, right? And actually in Australia, children aren't allowed on media at all. And there is a province. Now, what province is it in Canada? Maybe it was actually in Manitoba. They are talking about taking media away from the kids. Like it's not even going to be allowed in the school systems at all. Like computers, like kids are going to go back to books and writing and the basics when it comes to education. And I think that's an amazing idea. Like I said, lose it. You'll lose it, right? Use it or lose it. You have to use your noggins. You have to use your noggins because what happens if something happens and technology just drops and we're all looking to say, oh my goodness, how do I cook my craft dinner? How do I use my freezer? How do I use my phone? How do I talk to my mom? Right? Like we are so reliant now that it's kind of staggering, and there really isn't research because we're like, what do you call that, we're like in a trial right now, right, with all this technology because we are using it and learning it at the same time, right? So it's like medicine. Before the medicine goes out to the world, they put everything through tests. They'll do it with the plants and they'll do it with the animals and then they'll do it with humans. And if it works, they'll patent it and then it goes to the pharmacies and then they manufacture it. And then finally, after like 10 years, it goes out to the public with all kinds of testing. But with technology, it's a totally different story because we're creating it as we're using it, right? We're creating it as we're using it. And each one of us is a guinea pig in that. We are. Um, Speaking of meteors, Cindy, I saw this one news saying that there are meteors falling down and crashing on Earth all over the world, that it's happening more and more than before. It's a system that's going on right now. They've known that it was going to happen, but they thought that maybe it would be over after a few days, but it seems that it's not, that it's still going on. They say it's just going to be for a few more days and things will settle down. Nothing really, really huge. I think the biggest one they're saying is about the size of a car. And once it hits the atmosphere, it breaks up. And we'll be lucky if we get little chunks like this hitting the ground. But if you happen to find a piece of meteor that big, might be worth a little bit of money. Might be worth a little bit of money. I heard, Cindy, that Ontario is thinking about banning cell phones from schools along with social media. So maybe it was Ontario, Tammy, that the province was. And I think that I might have heard that maybe Manitoba was thinking about it, maybe following suit. But if they're doing that, you know that something is up, right? Because they're paying attention. They're paying attention because, like I said, we're in the trials as we're using these products, right? And we're guinea pigs in that, right? We're the plants, we're the animals, we're the human trial, right? We won't be the pharmacists because that will make money for somebody else. But yeah, that's good that you said that, Tammy, because I don't like to misrepresent, right? So I always say when I hear something that I always know if I might not have it right, that I always make a statement to let I might be wrong, you guys, right? And then that way when I do say something, then nobody is going to actually question it, right? Because they know I'm going to try and course correct. The guinea pigs that we are, yeah, yeah, we can be that. But it's important for us to have skills Like, think of us 100 years ago. What would we need to know 100 years ago? Because, right, barely had running water. We just started having toilets. We didn't have any phones at all, right? We were homesteaders. We were planting fields. Like, how many of us could do that? I could barely take care of my garden. I really detested the weeding of my garden, right? But I do have a Rubbermaid container, a great big Rubbermaid container, and it's a survival container. I got axes and slingshots and compasses and maps and survival books. I've got snow pants and winter jackets and toques and gloves and matches and lighters and little frying pans and survival blankets and, like, all kinds of stuff. Every time I came across when I'm in the thrift stores, I go, oh, that's a good one, right? Right here, I keep this in my window because it's a solar powered flashlight, right? And if a meteor does hit the atmosphere and the clouds do go black, right? Obviously, I'm not going to be able to power up my solar powered flashlight I've had this for years and I've never put a battery in it. I keep in the window just in case the electrical goes out or something. But if the solar power goes out, I've got a crank on it. So I can sit here and I can crank an electrical charge for my flashlight. That was a really good investment. I have to remember to take this with me if I should ever have to drop my survival bucket on my dolly and start walking down the Trans Canada Highway, right? Because I'll be heading to Sharbot Lake, Ontario. I tell people that all the time because if this digital age crashes, everybody is going to be like on their own and you won't know what to do. But if you want to be part of my community, it's going to take me. I even checked out how long it would take me to walk from here to Sharbot Lake, Ontario, and it would take me 6 months. But I think it would probably take me about 8 or 9 months because a lot of that is going through the mountains, right? And walking uphill is a lot different than just regular walking, right? And I'll be dragging my dolly with my survival bucket. I've even got wire on it so I can make little traps. Like, would people know how to get food, right? Because I know how to make one of those wire hoops to catch rabbits, right? I'll be eating rabbit and I'll live quite nicely. I have flint. I have my lighters. I'll be able to have fire. I have tarps. I'll be able to make shelters. I actually watch videos how to, right? For me, I think the best kind of shelter would be to, like, dig a big hole in the ground like they did when they first settled this country or this continent, right? And line it with rocks, and then, right, a wood roof structure with a fireplace, right? Get into the ground because the ground will insulate you in the summertime and keep you cool. And then in the wintertime, it will also insulate you and keep you a lot warmer, keep you out of the elements, right? And there would be less chance, of it being taken down by right, typhoons or tornadoes. Who knows what the weather will be like if a meteor hits and we go in, or volcanoes. Like, don't don't forget the volcanoes. All it would take would be one huge, right? Do you remember what happened with Mount St. Helens? And here I am talking about no news is good news. We're going to come off of that. But we'll just say, like Mount St. Helens, like I lived in Vancouver at the time. I believe that must have been 1980 when that happened. And we couldn't see to the boardwalk, to the sidewalk in front of our house because there was just so much ash everywhere. Everything was absolutely filthy and cloudy. And it took months and months for that to settle down. That was big. I remember that one. That was big, big news. And they actually made a movie on that one. I can't remember the name of the movie. Ah, I can't even remember the actor. I can see him in my mind, but I can't even remember the name of the movie. But yeah, it was a good movie, right? But yeah, go back in your mind and say 100 years from now, would you have the skills, right? I even know that cattails, I would harvest cattails out of the marshes and I would be able to dry it, the root from the cattails, and be able to make flour. I know how to tap maple trees and birch trees. You can use birch tree sap too, the same way you make maple sap. It's not as tasty, but right, you can use it. I could make chewing gum, right? I've learned about flowers. I've got a book of different flowers and wildlife and how to harvest. I actually watched videos on how to make mushrooms, how to grow mushrooms because it, it would be perfect if you had to dig a hole in the ground. You could live on mushrooms because mushrooms have fiber and they have protein, like they're a really great protein, and they'd be a lot tastier than eating roots, wouldn't it? Right? So, and depending if you had access to a cave would be a really good place to survive because that's how the Neanderthals survived the ice age, right? Was because they had caves. Yeah, interesting. Okay, we're going to come off that topic not to make it right. I like the idea of easing off of the media. No news is good news sometimes, right? Uh, oh, Kathy's here too. Oh my goodness. Hello, Kathy. Uh, Tammy says, I have survival items too, Cindy. Do you remember the crank radios? I got a crank radio too in that survival bucket too. I don't know what kind of good it will do, but if there's any what do you call that? Static going on, we'll call it. I'm trying to think of the word, but right, that would be absolutely an amazing item to have. Yeah, so I've got a brand new, it's not a brand new one, I think it's like from the 70s or 80s, right? But it's brand new and it's in the box and it's in my survival bin, right? And I just find these little scores, right? I find these little scores that I think that might be possibly right. And it's not like I'm expecting these things to happen, but I wouldn't mind being prepared if something, right, to have. It's like when you were a kid and you had that exit plan if there was a fire in a house, that you would have that escape route all planned out. I don't know about you guys, but we always had an escape route all planned out in every house that we ever moved into, right? But yeah, it's important. But it was really interesting about learning how to grow mushrooms. You can even do grow mushrooms from store-bought mushrooms, because for me, I have a hard time identifying mushrooms, because a lot of mushrooms that you can eat, they actually have sister mushrooms that are actually poisonous. So I'm kind of iffy about it. But if I'm buying it at Safeway, the mushrooms, I know how to, right? Split the stems, take the core out of the stems, make sure I use rubber gloves, spray everything with alcohol so everything is sanitized, how to boil straw or popcorn you can use, or rice you can use, and you boil that stuff, and then you put the mushroom stuff inside there, and then it all molds up, and then that's what you use to stuff in the rice in the buckets, and you bore holes. You can even bore a hole in logs, right? And stuff that stuff in the holes in the logs, and the mushrooms will just replenish. But this is something that you can do in a case where you might not be any food, right? Whatever it takes for mankind to survive, right? I am going to survive. I'm going to do my very darndest to survive, right? And I'll meet you guys all. I'm heading straight down Trans Canada Highway, and I'm heading for Charbot Lake. It's going to take me eight or 9 months to get there walking, but I'm heading there. So if we're going to build a community, more the merrier. Okay, let's come down to the comments here. uh, Oh, she likes my topic. Oh, good. I have a crank radio that works very well. Yeah, it's important. But yeah, did you see, Kathy? Were you in when I was showing my solar flashlight, and it also has a crank on it, so I can get some electricity that way too. But I never thought of that, because I keep this in the window. And if I'm in a real rush and I have to get out of my apartment and get on the highway, oh, I'm going to be really sad if I leave this one behind. So I should buy a regular flashlight and then put this one in the survival bucket, right? So that I don't forget it, because I love this flashlight. I do use it on occasion, not very often when the electricity goes off or something. Um yeah, I like this flashlight of mine, and I've never put a battery in it. I've had this thing for years, and I've never put a battery in it. I think I only paid $1.50 for it in the thrift store that I used to work at. So that'll be a good one for the survival bucket, but it never made it into the survival bucket because I use it. I use it all the time. Okay, you guys, it's Friday. Friday, I usually keep it pretty light. During the week, the topics get kind of heavy sometimes, and it just seems the more I involve myself in these interesting conversations, these interesting topics, and I think very helpful topics. Maybe not in the moment, but somewhere down the line, somebody might say, "Oh yeah, Cindy told me that I could make flour out of cattail roots." Right? You can, and you can um, make make thread and wool for stitching and for crocheting and stuff out of the fluffy stuff out of the cattails. The green on the cattails, you can chop the stems off, and you can boil that, and you can eat it, but like mashed potatoes. You can eat it like mashed potatoes. Like really interesting, like just little tidbits that we just pass along, right? Hello, Eugene. Yeah, I like my flashlight. I like my flashlight. Eugene would have liked that conversation because I'm sure he's pretty handy dandy and stuff, right? That he would be able to build himself a house and he'd be able to make those wire traps to catch the rabbits and stuff, right? But it's important to learn these things. So I don't have a problem. I think the kids are are our future. And it's important that they should be allowed to be kids and they shouldn't have access to a lot of the content that is online that is truly inappropriate, right? It is inappropriate. It's like us finding dad's Playboy magazines, under the mattress and stuff. So it's the same kind of idea, but it's so out there, right? And because everybody is out for the almighty dollar, and because, in a lot of topics, social media, people are under the impression that you can make a ton of money and they're doing crazy things, right? I just watched something where a lady climbed this real tall tower. It was like the Empire State Building, but then there was this electrical pole or maybe it was a lightning pole or something that was like another 30 or 40 feet on top of this building. And she climbed the top of it, stood at the top of it, and a gust of wind just took her away. Just took her away, and she died. And I went, like the crazy things that people do to make a dollar, to become famous, right? I work in media, I work in social media, but I'm working in mindset. I'm helping people to understand their emotions, right? Because we are such a messed up society that we really messed up pretty badly. And in that course correction, and in that sense that we are moving forward and it's for our own evolution and to help us to get on track at being better neighbors, better friends, better family members, right? And it to each one of us, we get to decide what's going to entertain us or what's going to teach us, right? And we all know that the media out there, including myself, right? They're stomping over each other to get your attention. And what gets your attention? The hairy, scary, the crazy town, right? And the catastrophes out there. So, I got to be very, very careful about what gets my attention. I like the happily ever after kind of feel good kind of news, but there's not a lot of that out there, right? There isn't a lot of that out there. That's why I was gobbling up to be the whale, right? And because it was feel good. And even if he didn't survive, the long trip, and he did, right? Um, it's good for mankind. It's good for humanity because we're coming together as a community, right? And whether it works out or it doesn't work out, we still came together as a community for something good. And I think that's pretty amazing. Okay, you guys, it's Friday. We're going to keep it short tonight. So we're going to grab a card if you've never hung out with me before. 54 powerful words. Maybe it was relevant to the conversation. Maybe not. Oh my goodness. Hold on one second. I thought it was my sink that was dripping. My dripping sink drives me a little bonkos, right? My attention goes to it. but I heard something and I went, "What's that? Doesn't sound like my sink." But I was boiling 2 potatoes for my hash browns for breakfast tomorrow. So they're going to be overcooked now because you were kind of frying. All the water had evaporated out of them. But I'll use, or maybe I'll make potato pancakes, right? I've got all the ingredients. I'll make potato pancakes for breakfast tomorrow. I haven't had potato pancakes in years, and I make a pretty good potato pancake. If I make the batter tonight and leave it in the fridge, the flavor will be amazing. So I think that's what I'll do is I'll shred the potatoes and the green onions and the seasonings with an egg and a little bit of sour cream, right? And I don't have any flour. Oh, but I have cornstarch. Yeah, cornstarch will work. I'll put a little cornstarch in it, let it sit in the fridge overnight, get those flavors together, and then I'll make some pancakes in the morning. It's a good thing I would have noticed it anyway, because that kind of stuff, like I said, it kind of drives me crazy when, right? And in that hypervigilance, we notice when things are out of place or things are missing or things don't sound right or things don't smell right, right? Actually, a good story is I used to manage a Perkins restaurant. Oh my goodness, it must have been at least 20, 25 years ago that I managed this restaurant. And it was the middle of the night. It was a 24-hour restaurant, and it was my rotation to do the midnight shifts. And I could smell burning wires, right? And I even could smell exactly where it was in the corner of the restaurant. And so I phoned the general manager and I says, I smell something burning in the ceiling. And so we phoned the owner and the owner says, well, send out somebody to check it out, right? And then they sent the fire inspectors out and they came right away and they inspected the restaurant and they said, no, there's nothing going on. And then so we finished the shift and we were doing all the cleanup in the morning, right? Getting it ready for the next shift. And I could realize says, yeah, this is something serious. I could smell burning wires in the ceiling. So I personally phoned the owner. I says, I don't know. I know I'm waking you up, but I really do smell burning wires in the ceiling. Can you come out? And by the time he got to the restaurant, the whole ceiling burst into flames. The whole ceiling burst into flames. Nobody believed me, but my nose knows, right? When there's something off, something not in place, or, right, I smell something funny. Yeah, you can guaranteed. Yeah, I always say if the end of the world comes, you come knocking on my door. I'll save your butt. That's a big responsibility. But I think I would want Tammy to knock on my door because she could be the caregiver for all of us because she's got all the emergencies under her belt that's ever happened. She's done it, right? So she would know what to do in those emergencies too. So yeah, I think on this channel we got a lot of people that could just manage to take care of themselves and take care of others. Okay, I gotta have a sip of my juice here. Okay, let's grab a card, go into it, and I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna watch some mindless, right? Because it's my manifestation, so I'm keeping it top of mind. And so I've been getting right into RV tours, YouTube RV tours. So I'm an expert on all my favorite. I even got a list here of all my favorite RVs. No, I did have a list. It's here somewheres, but Yeah, so I keep a list of all my favorite RVs. I thought I was going to want a Class B RV, but now I'm thinking a Class C RV with twin beds would be kind of nice. And I have my favorites, and of course, I want the off road ones. But some of these RVs cost as much as buying a house. Like they're so expensive, right? But I'm entertaining myself, right? And at the same time, I'm keeping it top of mind and keeping it there as one of my dreams, right? One of my goals for somewheres down the road. And we'll see. Maybe I will get my Class B RV. Maybe I will. And then I'm going to live in provincial parks in Ontario for the rest of my retirement. That's what I'm going to do. It would cost the same as renting a house. Why not be on the road for the rest of my life? What were we talking about tonight? Survival. Perseverance is in the just not giving up. And that's so true, right? Perseverance is so important. Thumbnail. Perseverance is so important, right? To make sure that no matter what, we're taking care of ourselves, that we keep moving, right? Like I said, today I was working on that website. It wasn't fun. It's not my favorite thing to do. I will never build another website ever again in my entire life, but it has to be done. So I'm doing it. I'm persevering in it, right? Still not fun, and I still won't ever do another one again. But I'm doing a good job. I feel like I'm doing a good job, but I'm doing it in baby steps, right? And when the storm hits, of course, you got to pick up pace. You got to work harder and putting a roof over your head and making sure that you're safe and everybody around you is safe. But in that perseverance, it's just in not giving up. It's how I look at my brand, because lots of times, you know, you wonder, what are you doing? Who else is having these kind of conversations, right? But you keep doing it because you know it's the right thing to do. You know, if you don't do it, you're just going to give up. And if you give up, what are you going to do, Cindy? You're going to sit on the couch with the remote control and watching Crazy Town on news broadcasts? That's not the life for me. That's not the life for me. I would much rather create a life of my own and not have it go anywheres, right? And not have it go anywheres. But it would be something that would give me that. Well, I can't use perseverance if we're using that, right? You never use the word to describe to, to describe the word, right? But to have the gumption, right? To have the determination to never give up, to find to find a way. And that's how we're going to evolve. That's how we're going to survive, right? It's Friday. That's all I've got for you tonight. And if we have to persevere, you guys know where I'm going to be heading. I'll be on with my dolly with my big survival Rubbermaid container plopped on it, and it'll take me 8 months, but I'm going to meet you at Charbot Lake. Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer. We'll see you on Sunday night. If you guys want to come and hang out with me on Sunday night, Saturdays is a day off for me. I'm not online. I'm online, but I'm not presenting online in any way. But if you want to come and hang out with us on Sunday nights, you're more than welcome. I have a great crew. We have lots of fun. If not, I will be back on Monday with a new topic of discussion and a new powerful word. You guys, thank you so much for having a I do. We all do. Don't we all do? Right? You got to push back at what's pushing you. Never give up. Just keep going, you guys. You never know. It has been fun, right? It has been fun. And you never know what will come of what you persevere in, what you really want, what you think is the right thing to do. Okay, you guys. Have a great night, and we'll see you Monday if I don't see you.